Now, if there is any sector which has felt the great impact of coronavirus pandemic since the outbreak in Nigeria, even across the world, it's the aviation industry. The sector has been accounting for losses when it was totally shut from operations for over 5 months before it was fully reopened for operations. The total shutdown of both the international and local flights affected the businesses of the sector, as well as businesses affiliated with it. The sector accounted for a number of job losses, where many of the stakeholders struggled to pay salaries of workers in the midst of the total shutdown of businesses. It is now 2 months since the sector opened for business activities. A mode of operations have definitely taken a new turn with strict compliance to COVID-19 guidelines, cutting down the number of passengers on flight. This, of course, will have its effect on revenue of the sector. But let's examine how this sector is adjusting to the new normal and how it's able to drive a balance with making income and keeping safe. Of course, I won't be doing this alone. I have joining me live in the studio is the managing partner of Aglo Aviation Support Services Limited, Mr. Tayo Ojuri. Thank you very much, Mr. Ojuri, for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's good to have you live in the studio.
Thank you.
Let's start this way. You agree, just like I said in the intro, the aviation sector is really hit, with this pandemic and gradually coming back to normal. Take us through the level of, can I use the word damage that has been done to the aviation sector? Because it's a global issue.
It's a global issue. It's unprecedented. It's catastrophic. It's actually affected us immensely. And negatively as well, we've actually had numbers from minus 62% to minus 98% dip in the number of airlines. And if you put this in perspective, we've seen lots of airlines go bankrupt since March. And in Africa, we've seen South African Airways struggling. We've seen Kenyan Airways struggling, and a lot of government subventions. We've seen Flybe going to bankruptcy. We've seen Virgin Australia going to bankruptcy, and lots of other airlines have gone into that. So we've seen that really affect the bottom line. And has it picked up even with flights starting up and opening? No, it's not, because we still have lots of disparate ways in which lots of countries are operating now. We have lots of isolations and quarantine measures, rather than having a one-layered and one-positioned approach, whereby IATA and ACA Airport Council International is proposing that we just have a test for departing and arriving passengers, which would help grow the travel market and activate people to travel rather than quarantine people. Because think of where the rubber meets the road, or an example where you have to travel for a conference or a meeting in England, and you have to stay 14 days in isolation even before you meet your people, your team you're meeting with. That's actually going to be a negative impact on travel, and we've seen that. So we've seen the other point, whereby a lot of airlines as well coming into Nigeria for us to restrict the spread and for aviation not to be seen as a vessel or channel or spreading COVID. We're restricting the number of airlines coming into Nigeria and even the number of people they can have on their flights, in terms of 200 passengers per flight, which is really affecting if you have an aircraft that can actually accommodate or contain 300 or 270 passengers, and restricting it to 200, that's going to affect the bottom
line. Indeed.
So these are revenue all the facts which we're grappling with now. And it's so funny you're saying we're actually coming back to normal. It's not normal, and we're not seeing normal, and we would not see normal. I'm not a prophet of doom. We will not see normal till 2024. Why so? There are lots of integral factors. We have the economy. Economy is a huge driver for aviation. When the economy sneezes, as it's sneezing, as we're going to, inflation rates are going up and a recession is looming, it affects aviation. Aviation is the first to get hit, like you said, and is the last to come back. So with the economy, with aviation, I'll repeat, it's a function of disposable income. So when we don't have disposable income, it's affecting the passenger traffic. Again, during the last 5 months, we've seen lots of automation, whereby there's other ways of doing meetings, and that's become a new norm.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's affecting lots of travel.
So people will not just have to leave.
Exactly.
They can have Zoom meetings,
a lot
video
of other
meetings, and
Google
everything.
Meet and lots of other platforms. So that meeting is actually not required for travel, except it's essential.
Yeah.
And we've done a survey where we actually looked at about 10 companies on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and we've actually surveyed the human resource professionals and this department, and they said, "Oh, are you actually going to let your people travel now?" And you find out that most of them, not only are they working from home till January, they are restricting travel of staff and management within and outside the country till 2021. So all these are affecting aviation and travel markets, and even though it's open, we're not having the feel. And with the economy, government is the biggest spender. Just to throw this in, we just had the announcement yesterday where government opened the field for all the staff of civil servants to start coming to work. With that, it's going to help meetings, but you don't forget, we still don't have the trainings, we still don't have the conferences, we still don't have all these things that would drive travel. So it's a huge measure, but what's the way forward? Let's not just complain. Let's see what are the options forward. One of the options forward is we hope, and we're looking forward to that vaccine. The approval of the vaccine is going to change the dynamics, in my opinion, and according to lots of studies. With the dynamics opening, there's going to be the need to actually move those vaccines to lots of places. And aviation is still the safest and fastest way of moving those vaccines from wherever it's created, and even if it's going to be generic, even if we have a vaccine creation in Nigeria, we still have to move it all around. So we still need aviation, the cold chain channel, to move those, and it's going to actually help us get some traction moving forward.
I'm also worried about, adapting to this new norm that's talking about the passenger side. Now, the use of face masks are now compulsory, temperature checks, coronavirus tests, like you said, one way or the other. Some is when you're leaving and when you arrive. Now, how are they reacting to this? I mean, passengers.
Well, let's be realistic. It's actually more expensive. It's very expensive because it adds to that ticket cost which is high at this point. Because if you look at the statistical fare between this time and last year, it's really, and this time of the year is not like we've not actually hit that high period. But what we're seeing is you're seeing lots of increase, whereby you have to do the test, and it's not a fixed amount per country. It changes from country to country. Ghana is about $150. We have about 51,000, which is about $110, $20. So it affects, and it adds up to that. So but what we've seen as a new normal is the mask, like you rightly said, washing of hands, sanitizers, and what airports are now putting in place is lots of hands-free facilitation system, whereby they're promoting checking in online and drop-off for airports that are more automated, and this actually would reduce that spread of COVID-19.
Yeah, during my research for this interview, I stumbled around something about HEPA filter, a way of also cleaning up the air that we breathe in the aircraft. Take us through what this really means. Are we doing that here?
It is global. Aviation is global. And for the aircrafts, we still don't have aircraft mates in Nigeria yet. So part of the startup procedure that the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority mandated, and which is actually pre-COVID-19 had been on the aircraft, is the HEPA filter, is this recirculation system on the aircraft, whereby the air comes from the top, goes down, you see some holes by your legs. If you sit by the window, it goes in there and goes out and recirculates within the aircraft. That helps fresh air to come in, and because we have that, studies have shown that we have risk of contacting COVID in contained areas.
Yeah.
So that's what actually helps dissipate that process and helps ensure that it's actually sanitized air. And this is just for your information as well. This is the same system and the air process that is used in surgery within the hospital system.
Wow. Now, like you said, you're not a prophet of doom. You're projecting 2024.
Yes.
That's a long time. It's a long time. When do you really see, with all efforts, when do you see the potential of this sector coming back to normal? 2024 to me seems like a very long time.
2024 was even third quarter projection once we did our third quarter numbers. But look at what is happening now. You did mention it in your analysis. We actually have an issue of the second wave. I did mention this is unprecedented. With second wave, Europe flu season, which is a replica of COVID, just COVID is a more transmitted disease. You find out that you actually, it's a huge risk, because with the second wave, which is increasing by day, there's going to be a bit of lockdown. There's going to be new regulations, and this is going to affect the way people travel. With the restrictions and lockdown and isolation is already affecting travel. So with the second wave, we're going to see that restriction and lull in the travel sector until, say, January, February. March is when flu season and winter is almost over. When we have spring in April, then we see some semblance. Again, we believe and we're optimistic that by the time the vaccine is confirmed, tried and tested by the World Health Organization, we'll be able to see some good stability and some relief to the system.
Let's round up on this note. We've been hearing a lot of supports, both internationally, bailout funds, interventions, whatever from government. Now, for Nigeria, are we also getting that? And if we are, how well? What's the impact? And what more can we do even on the global front?
On the global front, let's start from where he's ended. It gets interesting because on the global front, we've seen lots of that being implemented. We've seen even the payroll support system in the US and the UK up to end of September, but Congress have not been able to actually get to ahead about getting the next approval of 25 billion till April. We've gotten approval, not we, Lufthansa got approval in Germany for 9 billion. Air France KLM got 6.6 billion. So let's come home to Nigeria. Yeah, on paper, we have approval for about 27 billion, but that's still on the paper. We still don't know what is the modus operandi for the distribution of this this palliative to the airline. Who's going to be getting it? I did read, and the Honorable Minister of Aviation did say it's airlines are operational and have their AOC. That's fine. When? What is the model? What is the mode? What's the time frame? Because the longer we wait and the longer we stay with this process, you're going to have the risk of a lot of airlines go on bankrupt, because you find out that lots of airlines were grappling with lots of financial and challenging issues prior to COVID. Yep. So with this issue being elongated further, it might actually make a bad situation worse, unfortunately.
What a way to leave it. I must thank you very much, Mr. Tayo Ojuri, for your expert insight into this issue. Managing Partner, Aglo Aviation Support Services. Thank you very much for spending the afternoon with us.
Do stay safe.
And you too.
You too.
You're
welcome.
All right, then.